Well, I guess that's how you do it. Kind of a unique way to approach it, but damn it all, when you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you're going to move on from a quarterback that you had drafted number 1 overall in 2015, off the heels of a 5,000-yard, 30 touchdown, 30 interceptions, magnificent, majestic 30 for 30 season, if you're going to move on from that guy, you better do something different. You either blow it up and start over. If you're not going to do that, you better go get somebody that can come in and change everything and make you a contender right away. It was a unique situation. Typically don't have these types of things happen. But Tampa went out and did it and got it done and were able to convince Tom Brady after 20 seasons in New England to come to Tampa in 2020 and be this team's starting quarterback. And it wasn't just bringing in Tom Brady, it was coaxing Rob Gronkowski out of retirement, eventually getting Antonio Brown into the fold, and signing a release by the Jaguars, Leonard Fournette, like drafting an offensive tackle in the first round to help protect the new 43-year-old quarterback for the team. Like, this team said, you know what, we're going to bring in Tom Brady and we're effing going all in. Because you don't bring him in to half-ass it and win 9 or 10 games. You bring him in and his legacy and his catalog of success, and you say, we want to go out there and get it done and win it all. And like I said, ultimately, to their credit, they had a great team effort ultimately in the playoffs. You know, their offense, even with some of the turnovers that Brady had, still found a way to put up a shit ton of points in each of the 4 rounds. Their defense came up big at key times in some of those matchups, specifically the Super Bowl. Like, it's a well-balanced kind of team effort. So Tom Brady's got his 7th Super Bowl ring. Bruce Arians has got his first Super Bowl ring as a head coach. And you know, you look at this and you say, well, shit, that was a one-off thing. Now what's next? What's next is you can't dismiss Tampa. It doesn't matter if Tom Brady's 44. It doesn't matter any number of things. It doesn't matter how hard it is to repeat, even though it clearly is hard to repeat as Super Bowl champions. This is a roster that largely remains intact. They remain intact with the GOAT of all NFL quarterbacks. His accomplishments, his legacy, he's the GOAT. Have I seen better physical talents and actual physical players at the position? Yes, absolutely. There are some that are playing now. Rodgers, Mahomes, to name a couple. But he is the GOAT. People just need to accept that. Like, a dude is fucking 44 and still slinging it around. It's crazy. But what's really crazy to me is, typically in a Super Bowl era, free agency and everything else, Super Bowl champs largely get broken up. They have a lot of players leave. They have a lot of players that want to get paid and get big money, but they were in kind of this unique spot where they could afford to keep some of the people they wanted to keep, and most everybody else was under some form of contract. So yeah, the Bucs are back and looking to repeat, and it's largely the same roster as last year, which just really doesn't happen that much. You know, and you look at them and you say, okay, what do you got? You got Tom Brady. Yeah, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. A guy with leadership, playoff experience, championship experience. He's that guy, that true franchise guy that comes in and changes everything. Changes the approach of the offense, changes the approach of the defense, frankly. Changes the approach of the entire organization, the fan base, and all of that goes into play here. You've got Tom Brady in this league still. You've got a chance to win. They've got some great skill talent. Obviously, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown is back. Gronkowski's back for another run. You know, you're looking at the kind of two-headed monster in the backfield, the Rojo and Leonard Fournette. They've got some really good skill talent on this team. And that's what you do. If you're bringing in a Tom Brady, you don't sit there and just build up the defense and play conservative. You build up the offense around the guy that's the greatest quarterback of all time, because that's ultimately going to be your pathway to winning a championship. And that's what they've done. It helped when you already had guys like Evans and Godwin in the fold, don't get me wrong. And then defensively, you look at their pass rush with guys like Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. This was a defensive front seven that could get to the quarterback and you look at the havoc that they wreaked on Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, we can sit there and say, well, the Chiefs were decimated on the offensive line, had guys out injured, opted out due to COVID, blah, blah, blah. And yes, that is absolutely true. But let's not kid ourselves. Even that a healthy Chiefs offensive line would have had some challenges and some struggles trying to block that front seven of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they were dominant in that game. They weren't the reason that they won the Super Bowl. That was the offense. We need to be clear on that. The defense was just a bonus. But makes it really hard for the Chiefs to have a chance when you could get after Mahomes and disrupt his rhythm and timing like they did. And then their run defense was good last year, and I expected to be more of the same this year. Not a ton of super concerning questions for this team, kind of similar to last year, like what's the running game going to look like? They had challenges and struggles at times being able to run the football last year. You'd like to be able to run it a little bit more this year, take just a little bit of pressure and weight off of the shoulders of Tom Brady in the passing game. Their secondary is still young, and vulnerable at times, and you saw that play out at times last year. And then you've got Tom Brady at 44, and feels like every year, as soon as he got to 38, 39, we start talking about Father Time is undefeated. How much longer can Tom Brady do this? Father Time is undefeated. Tom Brady can't do this forever. At some point in time, Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff. At some point in time, he's going to look washed. And we've seen those little bits and pockets of where he's looked washed, and then he's come back, and you're like, oh, he can still really play to a certain level. He might not be peak Brady anymore, but he ain't no damn scrub. But god dang, at some point in time, you feel like Father Time's got to be able to come in and kick his ass some point. This is a 44-year-old dude. And, as you get older, that body starts to degrade quickly. It's one thing if you're talking about he went from age 33 to 34, 34 to 35. Now, that brings some physical changes, sure. But you're talking about this dude's going from 43 to 44. Shit. That ain't no small thing. Can you really count on him to have the level of season that he had last year again this year? And keep in mind that there were some moments in the playoffs that he looked a little rough. Buccaneers were lucky at some points to be able to get where they did. Looking at their schedule for this year, it seems to set up relatively favorably for them, relatively speaking, for a defending Super Bowl champion. Their first 5 games I look at and I say, okay, this might be a little bit of a tougher stretch. You've got the Thursday night game at home, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Then you got to go week 2, and you're hosting again against Atlanta. Defending Super Bowl champs, you really want to sit there and make that statement in that Thursday night game against the Cowboys, and come back in week 2 and make a statement against a divisional opponent. Then your next 2 games on the road, you got to go to the Rams and you got to go to the Patriots. My fucking God. Is that week 4 game going to be a media hype, a social media hype? Tom Brady coming back to New England, defending Super Bowl champions? I literally would sit there and tell Tom Brady, get a Prince Albert and have all 7 of his rings dangling off his donger and walk over there to Bill Belichick and ask him, oh, look what I got. Yeah. Let me guess. It's on to Miami. It's on to Cincinnati. That's going to be a monster, man. It's those drama points, those subplots that can be so fascinating and make such a difference in the regular season. That is going to be one in week 4. And then week 5, they come back home and they host the Dolphins. Another big test for them is going to be week 14 against the Buffalo Bills. At least they got Buffalo at home. I don't see any reason at this point to get too crazy here and not pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this division by a couple of games. I know they didn't win the division last year, but circumstances and factors have changed this year. The Saints don't have Drew Brees anymore. I'm not sure the Saints can be the same level of team. I think a 12-5 season is certainly reasonable for them, being one of the top seeds in the NFC. And, ultimately, if you want to win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, that road's going to have to go through Tampa Bay in one shape or form or another. I love the fact that this team was able to largely stay together. Continuity and chemistry are very important and hard for a defending champion to be able to have. The Chiefs had quite a bit of it last year, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have it this year. So, will they be able to go all the way back? That's really, really tough. It's possible. We just saw the Chiefs be able to do it. Super Bowl champs made it back the next year. They lost, but they still made it back. I don't know if the Bucs are the absolute favorites in the NFC right now, but they're certainly on the short list. Probably most people's short list is going to be them and the Rams and the Packers in some configuration or order, and that feels about right to me right now. And when you look at all things being equal, I'd take Brady and the Patriots. Shit, Brady and the fuck. It's a habit after 2 decades. Okay, I take Brady and the Buccaneers at this point.